Why am I so lucky? Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be fun if that happened? That would be so amazing. Of course it's going to happen. I'm limitless. I don't have limits. Limits? What a joke.
Okay, we need to coin this. You need to coin this method. The lucky girl mirror method.
Sure. I love that.
The titties out luck spell.
Tits out luck spell.
There it is.
I don't know. I flash myself in the mirror every night, and I think that's part of it. I don't know why I do it.
Titsoutluckspell.com.
I'll let you all picture what that's like. Hello and welcome to another episode of Goddess Hangs.
Episode 111. Woo!
111! It's the first angel number episode, 3-digit angel number episode. How exciting! Look at us. Look at us.
Really? Who would have thought?
Look at us. Who would have thought? I'm Sadie.
And I'm Juliet, obviously.
And we created the Goddess Hangs podcast to inspire you to live magically. Wow.
Live magically.
Live magically. We're your favorite psychic witch besties, and we're here to inspire you. Today we're gonna talk about some real magic. Real magic.
Real magic.
Real magic. The hit new single.
I'm going to write that down. Real magic.
Real magic. It'll be our new intro. As high-pitched as possible.
Oh
really get up there.
I know we were chatting yesterday on Instagram Live about really wanting to fulfill this pop star dream that we have. And this is our big shot. Real magic.
Big ticket. Imagine if we got famous for a hit single instead of our podcast. I mean, that wouldn't be surprising for you, who's been manifesting it for a long time. But for me, that would be shocking.
I was like, well, I would love that.
Yeah, I'm like, that's actually, maybe that, yeah, we've always said maybe that's how you're going to become the pop star is through this channel. And then I think it's going to happen because guess what? We're the luckiest girls in the world.
The luckiest girls in the world. With the most phlegm today. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. So what's new with you, Juliet, before we dive into the real magic?
Real magic. It's going to be stuck in everybody's head all day. What does it take? What do you need? Real magic.
Real magic.
So, you know what? Oh, I meant to reach for this thing. So, there is something new and exciting with me. There's actually a lot of things. So, back when I was 19 years old, I had the choice of ordering 100 copies of my debut CD or 1,000.
And which did you pick, Juliet?
I chose the 1,000 because I really believed that I was going to sell 1,000. And I sold 47. And so now I have stacks and stacks of this CD. And I've been sharing this story on TikTok, and it must be touching their hearts because I have a bag full of orders to drop at the post office because they're buying it. They want my CD from when I was a teenager.
God.
So if you would like my hit CD Wanderlust, which I believe very comically 13 years after its release will win some type of award. It's a great album. I haven't listened to it in over a decade. It's really good. I definitely sound like a little baby when I sing. I'm very pitchy. But the lyrics, the messages, the feeling, I mean, it's very nostalgic and indie and folky, and I'm really proud of it. So I would love to ship you. There's only 956 left, so hurry.
Get them before they're gone.
So that's been really fun to have new people discovering my music.
That's so cool.
And then, it's like that thing my mom said, it's like you gave the CD CPR. I kind of did. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, as artists and as creatives, we have to get over this idea that, like, I love creating new things, but when I went to see Paul McCartney, I wanted to hear the songs from 50 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't necessarily want to hear the new song. It was a pleasure to hear the new song, but I wanted to hear the one that I knew and the one that I loved. And I was like, you know what? My stuff is no different. Like, people still love these songs from a long time ago. So I'm like giving it new life and new attention. And I've really just had a very light, inspiring week. I also did a show over on this app called Whatnot. And I've been singing songs and doing some fun, like, live auctioning things. And 2 hours flew by last night. It was just like such a joy. And I realized that for 2 years, and I'm so happy we've done it, and this is just the beginning, I've given every waking moment and thought and energy of my life to this beautiful endeavor and podcast and business and empire. And I'm like reintroducing like my passions and my love. Like I'm sort of balancing it out now where I'm like, oh yeah, this is who I am, like, as my own individual, and here's my music. And it's been really healing and really fun. And to be packing up CDs that have been sitting in a box in my parents' garage for over a decade, collecting dust and signing them and writing a little thank you note. Like, it's just so exciting. It's so exciting. And I just think, you know, there's a couple lessons to share from this. And one is that it's never too late. Like, if you launch anything, you know, an offer, a product, an art project, like anything, you can revisit it at any time. Like, there's still a world of people who can fall in love with something, and you still have the right to be excited about something, even if it's been a very long time. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, how many times can we enjoy like the 10 Van Gogh paintings we love, right? Mm-hmm. We're not like, I've seen that one, show me something new. We're like, wow, I could look at Starry Night forever. So that put some perspective like into my mind. And then also like do the things that light you up, the things that excite you. And I can't even find words. I'm just so excited. I feel so good. And it's given me so much more energy to come back into our world and give more, because I'm like filling up my own cup, which is what we teach on. But, you know, it's like some things are easier said than done. So
yeah,
that's new. We took Sweetie Girl to the groomers, and she was not happy.
Oh,
she did not like it. They had 2 women had to hold her. She's so little. And then I brought her home and I was like, okay, great. You won't fly out a window. Like, I'll give you a bath. You haven't taken a bath. You like won't go in water. Hated that. It was like trying to give a bath to a cat. So that was terrible. And then it's like whatever I did, I just kept like just traumatizing her more. And so we're going back to a gentle approach. I'm trying to be like, just please trust me and love me. I'm learning that she's certainly a cage-bound bird. She was just kept in a cage her whole life. And so anything outside of the cage is terrifying to her. So we're working on it. But she went to get her little nails clipped and her wings clipped. And then, yeah, I wrote down, I feel like me again.
Aww.
I feel like me again. And just last night I was going through, you know, we're finalizing our Italy trip. Me and Victor, and I found like the perfect hotel for the last leg of the trip, and I'm so excited. We're going to book that this week. And I've been looking up like, I mean, you can just get lost on TikTok and Reels of things to do and places to stay. And I was doing it for Bali as well. And we're so excited. Another amazing babe named Sierra signed up for Bali this week. So we have
so excited.
Now we have 9 amazing people coming with us on this trip this summer. And you can be one of them if you're listening, by the way. You're like, what? Bali? You're doing Bali? Yes, we are. And we're going with Trova Trip. It's totally organized. It's going to be so magical and so much fun. We're going to teach witchy workshops and like see every amazing thing that Bali has to offer. So
and bring a friend or bring your mom or bring whoever might be interested in it. They don't have to do the witchy workshops, but they're included in it.
No,
and we're doing
they can
all
go
of these
hang
amazing
out.
Tours and
bring your
so
dad.
Excited.
Bring your dad. He can hang out with Victor while we do the witchy workshops.
And my mystery boyfriend that will be there that I will have met somewhere along my travels. I'm manifesting, bringing my hot new thing.
I love it. I was like, honey, are you going to sit down and like do the rituals with us? He's like, no. I was like, that's fine.
He can help us get a little content in the beginning of them, of us like sitting in circles and stuff, and then he can skedaddle.
And then he can skedoot. So yeah, I've just been like feeling like myself, singing again, sharing my music like really, really openly, and just planning some traveling adventures and really trying to once again mend the bond with my bird. I just can't get it right.
It's a real roller coaster.
If this is like an ounce of what it's like to be a parent, just an ounce, not even. I'm a little nervous because you just want them to be happy and you just want them to feel safe, and you mess it up. You just want them to be clean and healthy. Oh, well, I'm doing my best. I think she knows that.
She does.
And that's really all that's new with me, which is a lot in the past week. But I know you have a lot that's new with you. And I know some of it, but there's also some of it that I know you saved for today. So I'm very excited.
Before I dive in, scoot your camera just a little because there's a white strip on this side. See it?
Oh, no, because mine's cut in like a square.
Oh, I see you cut in like a square, but there's like an inch of white. You don't see that? No, the other way.
This way?
Oh, and then it's on that side too. Maybe going closer. Now it's worse.
I think it gets cropped in like this. I think
even more. Okay, because I see it says squares already. All right, never mind. As we go on. Okay, so what's new with me? Okay, so this story starts with me getting sick every week. Last week I got sick. This is the second time. I never get sick. This is the second time I've been sick since I've been home, which has not been that long. And both of these times were after I went outside for a significant length of time. So I'm just saying it's suspicious. I went outside again today and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Stay tuned.
No.
I'm really trying. I'm trying. I keep getting sick. But anyways, okay. So then, as one does when you're sick, you binge a TV show, which I binged Wednesday first on Netflix. So good. Loved it. And then I had to pick another show because I finished it and I was still sick. So I started watching Lucifer. Have you seen that show?
No.
Okay. So it's a Netflix show. It's really fun. It's like comedy action, and the premise of it, this part's not a spoiler because it's the first episode. The premise of it is that Lucifer is like, I don't want to be the like king of hell anymore. I don't want to have this job, so I'm gonna go like live on Earth. But he's still, an angel. He's still immortal. And he people humans come to him and ask him for favors, like a deal with the devil and all of this stuff. Okay. And I love it. I love a good comedy with little action. It's kind of like a cop show because he starts working with this woman that's a detective, and he has influence over people. When he asks them, what do you desire? He asks every person, what do you desire more than anything in the world? And they tell him, right? And so I'm watching the show, and this part is like kind of a spoiler, but it won't ruin the show for you. But if you want to fast forward, that's fine. But then you won't get what I'm talking about. So a couple episodes in, I knew this was going to happen from the first episode. A couple episodes in. So leading up to this point, he's getting like shot at and, nothing happens, feels no pain, not even injured, whatever, because he's immortal, right? And he's always like crystal clear honest. He doesn't try to hide the fact that he's the devil. He tells everybody, he tells this detective, he's like, yeah, I'm immortal, whatever, but no one believes him. Like, they just think he's this like facetious guy. And then he gets shot in a later episode, and he's like, oh fuck, like, ow, that hurts, and he's injured and he's bleeding and whatever, and he's like, oh my god, I'm turning mortal, like, this is crazy. And you're like, watching the show, you're like, oh my god, like, he's gonna be so upset. Right, as you would think, but no, he's like thrilled. This is the best thing that's ever happened to him. He's like, I can't believe this is amazing. He's never felt pain before. He's never felt fear before. He's never felt any sort of limitation. And he's like totally high on it. And he wants to go seek out more danger. And his like demon little friend that's came to Earth with him is like, no, you have to be careful. We have to figure this out, whatever. And he's just like, no, this is incredible. Are you kidding me? Like, to be immortal, this is amortal, not immortal, amortal. Like, this is the craziest, best thing that's ever happened to me. And so I was watching this, whatever. And then I was like, oh, that's interesting. Cool. And then I went to bed that night and my head hit the pillow and I was like, wait a minute. Oh my God. Wait, you're frozen. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I'm going to bed and I just like, my head hits the pillow and I start having this like existential crisis. Cause I'm like, wait, like that is like what we are as humans. Like, we are these like infinite, limitless beings that decided to come and have a human experience because it's thrilling to have limitations and have to work through that and like experience things. And I was just thinking like as like that like infinite source energy, this is just an example, not that we literally get bored, but like we're just chilling, right? Like there's no time, there's no space, there's no nothing. There's like, if we want something, we don't need to want it. Like, it's just there. Like, we're infinite. And then we get bored and we're like, you know what would be fun if I went to go be a human and tried out the whole limitation thing, but they're just perceived. I don't know if this is making sense, but I had a total meltdown.
I'm following.
I just had a total meltdown because I was like, oh my God, I just felt like my whole body like remembered who I was. And I literally started spinning my, like, as if I was like really drunk or high or something. And I was not at all. And I was just having a total like existential crisis because I was like, I remember. And I've been high ever since.
It's the remember who you are week.
I know, right? And I teach that, but it was like my physical body remembered and it was crazy.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that for you.
Yeah, so that was crazy and I feel like I've been high ever since. I can't come down. I can't like ground back into my body. I'm just this limitless being now, which is great.
Lucifer, Tuesdays at 7.
Go watch it.
7/6 Central.
I want to know if anyone out there has had something from a show or a movie that has done this to them, where they just have a complete crisis because they realize something about themselves or life in general. Because I was like, this is from a silly show. Like, how did this happen?
Oh, I had something happen once. It wasn't so much spiritual, but it did like, it was like I saw something at the perfect time. So there's this very intense Jared Leto movie called Mr. Nobody. I don't think it's a terribly popular movie. But I watched it with a guy who I was really, really close with. And he, in so many ways, like was a soulmate. Like we were so tight. We could literally telepathic. It was very, very cool. And we had grown, like he was in like the background of the photos of me at kindergarten. Like he just was always there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, but I felt and I really tried to like feel that romantic spark. And I just, I tried so hard because he was an amazing, and he is, I don't talk to him anymore, but he's an amazing person and an amazing family and all these things. We were best friends. And I saw this movie, Mr. Nobody, and there's a scene where it's like the two people, I think they were like supposed to be teenagers, and they just are falling in love. And I, sitting next to this guy, lost it. I lost it because in that moment, I was like, this is not the life I'm supposed to continue pursuing. Like, I mean, it was kind of embarrassing to do in front of somebody. He's like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Uh-huh."
You just realized you're not the
like,
one.
This isn't even as sad. I know. I'm like, it's not you. I'm sorry. It's just not. Oh, that was a hard moment in time, and he was very hurt. I'm sure he forgot who I am at this point, but
forgot.
It was a moment. It was a movie moment where it was just the most illuminating thing. Yeah. So I've had it happen in that way, but
yeah.
In terms of like, whoa, I can't off the top of my head think of one, but I'm loving that you had that, because it's never a bad thing to be reminded of how just, I mean, that's what this whole episode is about today. Like how magical life is, how magical we are as people to be here. So I love that.
Yeah. It just felt like now, like when I think about like, I don't know, like a thing that makes me sad or upset or whatever, I have this newfound like appreciation for it. Or if I'm feeling anxiety, I'm like, "Aw, look at me being a human. I'm having such a good time experiencing this."
Oh my God, pain.
Like, oh, this is so interesting. What a thrill. What a thrill to be anxious. I can't believe this. I'm so lucky to be me, to be a human, having this human experience of anxiety. So it's been really fun.
You know, I love that. I don't always feel that way when I feel anxious, but I'm going to try.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the next thing is that, let's see. I wrote these all out of order. What was going on? What's going on inside my head? Lucky girl syndrome. I'm still obsessed with it. It's still on TikTok. Mm-hmm. We love it. We love this trend. It reminds me of us just always talking about being divinely delusional. It's the same vibe, right? And I'm like, when is that going to be a trend that we started? Let's start it. But what I was going to say is I've been switching up the way I approach some routines, and it only takes a couple minutes, morning and night. And I'm going to share with you my lucky girl syndrome routine. And it's literally been working like crazy. Exactly what I ask for happens the next day. Like, I don't understand.
I'm gonna cue you in with our lucky girl syndrome song. Are you ready?
Okay.
She's so lucky. She's a star. She gets everything that's inside her heart, thinking there is nothing missing in my life. Sadie, share your routine. Go.
The songs are back. Okay, so this is important. You need to do both of these pieces, everybody. You need to do both of these pieces. Okay. At night, at bedtime, when you're getting ready for bed, there's two parts to this. Okay. So while you're getting ready for bed, you're in front of your mirror. You're going to have fun with this. You're going to get silly with it. You're going to look at yourself. This is affirmations, but you're more fun. Okay. I wrote down, okay, so this is what I do. When I'm getting ready for bed, I'm like dancing in front of the mirror, and I'm just kind of like whispering to myself because my stepsister's like in the other room next to me. Lucky girl. And I also think this is important. Okay. Specifically, I'm like really like touching my body and like moving my hips. Sometimes I flash myself when I'm doing getting really goofy and like really just like crazy.
Okay. I wrote
This
down
is
so
important.
far, mere
Flash.
fun, silly dance flash. Okay, what's the next
You
step?
got it. It's getting in your body. This is science, people.
Titty
And
science.
while you're doing this, you're saying things like this. Okay, I made an example. You're getting really into it, and you're like, wouldn't it be fun if tomorrow I received $1,000? Wouldn't it be fun if tomorrow like this happened? Oh my God, I can't believe it's so crazy to be the luckiest girl in the world. Like it's and I just like have so much fun with it. It's super goofy. This week I said, wouldn't it be fun to receive $1,000 tomorrow? The next day, Juliet messaged me and was like, hey, PayPal yourself $1,000. I was not expecting that at all. Then I was like, wouldn't it be fun for another person to join the Bali retreat this week? We haven't had a new person sign up for that in months and months and months. Someone signed up for the Bali retreat this week. And there was a couple other things. Those were the biggest ones where I was like, I literally said those exact things. What the fuck? And you just go, you just like, get your whole body in it and just say things like that. Like, why am I so lucky? Oh my gosh, wouldn't it be fun if that happened? That would be so amazing. Of course it's going to happen. I'm limitless. I don't have limits. Limits? What a joke.
Okay, we need to coin this. You need to coin this method. The lucky girl mirror method.
Sure. I love that.
The titties out luck spell.
Tits out luck spell.
There it is.
I don't know. I flash myself in the mirror every night, and I think that's part of it. I don't know why I do it.
Titsoutluckspell.com.
I'll let you all picture what that's like. But it's like in a very silly way where I'm like, I'm telling you,
I miss you.
I'm telling you, I've been high since I had my existential crisis, and this is what I've been channeling. So I think it's important, and everybody should listen.
Okay, I'm writing this down. Tits out, mirror spell.
And then, okay, so then you gotta calm down a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And then we're getting in bed, and as I'm sitting in my bed and I'm taking off my slippers and I'm laying down, I repeat to myself, I say, I love waking up in my most abundant timeline. When I wake up, I'm in my most abundant timeline, and I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to do. When I wake up, I know exactly what to do. And I fall asleep at night repeating that in my head. When I wake up, I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to do. You're training your brain. You're training your brain to dig into that subconscious while you're sleeping and pull out that intuitive information you need. So that's the next step. Don't skip either of those steps. They're very important. And then when we wake up, we know exactly what to do. So then in the morning, and this is important, there's a step here too, and don't skip this either. I was already doing meditation and journaling in the morning, and I spend quite a significant amount of time on that. I meditate for, 13 minutes isn't that long, but I meditate for 13 minutes. I set a timer, and then I journal like a full big page in my journal. But you could do this shorter. You could set a 5-minute timer and a 5-minute journaling session, like a 5-minute meditation, but do both of these steps immediately when you wake up, because your brain, it hasn't fully woken up yet and you still have access. You're in the brain state or whatever. You know what I mean? Like the theta is when we're in deep rest. And I think that's the brainwave we're still in when we first wake up. So when you first wake up, don't do anything else. You can set your 5-minute timer if you want, meditate. And if you have a hard time meditating, I want you to just focus on that mantra again while you're meditating, just repeating it. I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to do. Or you can start trying to draw in the information you need already then. But then the journaling is where you just start writing. You write what you felt or saw or understood during meditation. If you feel like what to do isn't flowing out in either of these steps, that's okay. Still do them and just take note of like how you feel, what you're excited about for the day. Write affirmations again, like just do it. But for me, every morning I've been doing this. When I meditate, I like start out by saying, I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to do. And then I visualize myself as this like ball of light. And that's like me as my limit. I'm like, that's me as my true self, that I remembered who I am. And then when I start journaling, like, it's crazy. Just like, I'm not, it's like, I don't even have the thoughts in my brain. I just start writing stuff and I'm like surprised by it. I'm like, oh, it's like what content I should make. I'll write out full on like scripts of things I should say to talk out in like a TikTok or something. Like, it's all just being, I'm like, or I'm just like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do this. It's literally what to do. And I've been doing it every day. And crazy shit has been manifesting. So that's my version of lucky girl syndrome, is the tits out.
And you know what? Here's what I love. If you only have 2 minutes before bed, you can sneak in a tits out mirror spell. You don't
real quick. You don't even need 2 minutes. You just go like this. I'm the luckiest girl in the world. If you're not watching, I'm mimicking a flash while I yell it, and then I put the shirt on. You can also do this throughout the day. Whenever you're in the bathroom, just give yourself a quick peek.
You have to make a TikTok like explaining this.
I know. I have plans too.
Great.
I actually wasn't going to explain the tits out part. That was private, but then it just came out. I was sitting here with you. It all came out. That's the best part.
That's the part that is going to really take it to the next level.
I might make a clip from the podcast, because I feel like I'll get the energy here is immaculate right now.
The energy is immaculate.
So that's what's new with me. Now I have one more thing.
Yeah.
Okay. The moment we've all been waiting for.
Yeah.
I bought my ticket. I bought my one-way ticket to New Zealand.
She's going.
I'm so excited. And the first thing I did, I bought my ticket to New Zealand, and then I booked my tour to the Shire.
There you go.
I didn't even plan where I was staying. Nothing. I was like, I'm flying to Auckland. Next day, 6:30 in the morning, going on a bus tour to Hobbiton, the Shire from Lord of the Rings. And then they also take you to this glowworm cave. You go deep into a cave where it's really dark, and you go into a boat and there's glowworms. And I was looking at the itinerary, and this was the cutest part. From the Shire to the glowworm spot, where I'm on a bus, they're like, there's like a 10-minute stop at a petting zoo.
Oh, I'm sold.
And then it says, we don't go in, but the animals are so familiar with us stopping every day that they always come running to the fence. So it's not even an official stop. It's just pulling over. But it's on the itinerary.
I'm sure the people who own that petting zoo are like, could you please?
Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Can you please not include this?
Those nerds from Hobbiton are back.
Do you also stop on the way back?
I hope so. I would hope so. I don't know if it's like a circular thing, because they're picking me up in Auckland, and then you drive like 2 hours to there, and then I think it's like an hour to the caves and then back. But okay, I have a couple things I want to share about me booking this. First of all,
okay,
I'm so excited to tell my dad and brothers, right? Last night, I'm like, oh my God, guess what? I booked my ticket. And the first thing I'm doing that I've always wanted to do is go to Hobbiton. And blank faces. They're like, and I'm like, the Shire? And they're like, what? I'm like, from Lord of the Rings? And they're like, all of them. Oh, I've never seen that movie. I'm like, well, surely you still know what I'm talking about, right? No idea. I'm like, I'm the only nerd in my family. I don't know how I was born into this family. Completely unimpressed. No reaction. They're like, oh, that's cool.
You're like, but there is a petting zoo that we pass by on the way. Oh, yeah, petting zoos.
Oh. Okay, but I had there's been a lot of synchronicities actually, but I want to describe two literally yesterday. So
Okay.
the second I clicked book on my flight, and the next tab over was to tab over to book the tour. It's already open. I clicked book, and I'm just like, oh my God. And immediately I see this little drop down. My phone's like open next to my computer. And I see this little drop down notification from Instagram that says somebody commented like, you're like the Eye of Sauron, but a kind pink witch. And never in all of my years of being an internet witch has anyone ever made a Lord of the Rings reference commenting to me. And I was like, that is fucking crazy and so hilarious. And then the other cool synchronicity was then I was like, oh, like, so when I first get to New Zealand, so I'm meeting my cousin and her friend on this trip to do the extended travel together for the most of it. But they're going a couple weeks before me. So they're already going to be out of Auckland, and they're going to be in like the South Island, like very far away. And I was like, I have to do Hobbiton. Like it's a non-negotiable. I'm not flying all the way to fucking New Zealand and not going. So I was like, all good. Like I'll spend a couple days by myself in Auckland. So I'm just getting a hostel. Like I was like, oh, you know, like I love staying in hostels. You meet people, you just book a nicer one, and like you read all the reviews, make sure it's not like a party one, whatever. So I'm looking at the Auckland hostels. Hostelworld.com, by the way, is what I always book hostels on. It's great. So there's tons of reviews. And I'm on this one that seems good because it's a good location. All the reviews are great, but I just have this like nagging feeling that like this isn't the one for me. And there's no reason, there's no logical reason. The pictures look beautiful, good reviews, but I'm just like, it's just like a no. And I'm like about to book it. And I'm like, oh, all right, okay. So I go back, and I see this other one just like really stands out to me. And it's like a little bit, it's like 1 mile out of the city center. It's not far out at all, but it's like by this like beautiful green park. And I think I just didn't click it right away because it was slightly farther out from like the main bustle of like where you want to hang out. So I clicked this one, and I'm like, oh my God, it's beautiful. It's on this beautiful green park, has this beautiful view. It's like this like historic building, looks really beautiful, has great reviews, whatever. So I'm like, this one feels like a yes. I think this is the one. So I go to check out, and it's $33.33 a night. And I'm staying for 3 nights. So my total is $99.99. And it's all angel numbers. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, you know, everything's assigned to me. And it's going to be close to where I get picked up for my tour. And I'm excited about this beautiful park. And I can still walk to like where you want to go hang out because I'm spending 1 day in Auckland without the tour. And that's the first little leg of my trip. So I did book where I'm staying, but the tour came first.
Oh my God, I'm so excited for you.
So yeah, this starts on, let's see. So March 14th is when I leave the US. So that'll be the official start of my 6-month-ish digital nomad journey. I'm going to be going all the way up until Juliet and I meet in Bali in July. And then we're going to spend a couple weeks together doing like Thailand and maybe like one other spot. And I want to like end my big travel with being somewhere really cool for my birthday. So then I want to like come home and get an apartment. So that's exciting. And I was thinking about when you were talking about like going back to your music and that feeling so good. And I feel like we're both revisiting sort of like OG dreams, because this was always mine, like to see what it's like to just like work and live wherever and not really have like, you know, your traditional home and just like be a digital nomad. I've always wanted that title. So digital nomad Sadie is here. She's starting in 46 days or something like that when we're recording. And the really exciting part is before I leave for New Zealand, I'm spending a whole week in Los Angeles. So Juliet and I get to hang out, and I'm going to watch the cats because Craig's going to be gone on tour. So I get to be in my old home and be with my kitties, and it's going to be so nice, be in my little beachfront neighborhood. I'm so excited. So it's going to feel so good too. So I'm just so excited.
I know. I'm so happy for you. You are manifesting exactly what you want. You've taken really brave, big, bold steps.
Thank
Huge,
you.
uncomfortable steps, right?
Very, yeah.
But last night, Sadie sent me this link to something that was like,
did it have the numbers on it? Okay.
Yeah, here, let's see. Let me see what it said. It was like a countdown to the seconds of when you'd be in Los Angeles, and you were like, not that I'm counting.
I changed it because I had the day wrong. I'm actually coming one day earlier than I had in there. Let me know if it still works. I can resend you the link.
47 days, 9 hours, 4 minutes, and 8 seconds.
It's actually 46 days, I think, because I had to change it.
Oh my God.
I'm coming on Monday and not Tuesday.
So fast.
I know, a month and a half.
Fast. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
It's crazy. I'm so excited.
I know. I said, get ready for me to be at your house like every other day for those 7 days.
Well, I thought, we can like record a few in-person episodes because obviously there's still a podcast studio there because Craig has a podcast. And then I thought it'd be fun if we went to like a botanical garden or something one day and did like really cute photos. Had some cute content day.
I love that. Let's do it.
Or somewhere cute. Yeah, so that's what's new with us. Woohoo! Yay! Are you ready? Are you ready for the science of magic? Real magic. Real magic. I already forgot the song from earlier.
I'm ready.
Okay, so, I wrote this note. Before we dive into this is like going to be part masterclass, part sharing the experiments and the statistics that prove that magic is real, which is really cool, really exciting. So I wrote down before we dive in, if all of this you're about to learn, like really excites you, really lights you up, makes you feel really inspired, and you're like, I gotta put this into action in my life, then you need to check out the Alchemy Collective, because that's what the Alchemy Collective is all about. Is real magic and like integrating it into your life. We have really juicy master classes coming up, masterminds where we work with you. There's a Discord where we're there supporting you and asking you questions to keep you accountable. And there's this really cool Alchemy Radio feature that is like a private mini podcast. And it's incredible. So if this episode, what we're about to chat about, is like really just turning you on, Alchemy Collective, check it out. And if you want a taste of it, we have a new 5-day manifesting challenge. It's totally free. It's in the show notes. Go check it out. And then you're going to want to join us in the Alchemy Collective, which is really exciting.
Absolutely. It's the best. It's the best of all of our worlds.
All of our worlds. Okay.
All of our worlds. Real magic.
Real magic. Okay, so if you're watching, I'm holding a book called Real Magic, and this is what we're referencing today. So I'll put a link to this book in the show notes, or I'll write down what it is. It's by Dean Radin, Dean Radin, PhD. And I marked a bunch. I'm like a little over halfway done with the book, and there's already so much to share. So who knows? Maybe there's going to be a part 2. If you're someone who really likes learning like the history and the science of mystical things, magical things, this book is great. I'll be honest, it's a little bit dry to read because it's a lot of like breaking down experiments and stuff, but I'm going to share all the really juicy parts with you. So let's get started in the beginning.
Real magic.
Okay, so Mr. Dean, he says, real magic falls into 3 categories. So this is the 3 basic categories that this book is sort of pointing back to, talking about the history of, and experimentally proving. So the first type he calls force of will. It's associated with spell casting and other techniques meant to intentionally influence events or actions. So force of will is basically anything you're doing to manifest. It could be affirmation work, it could be spells, it could be visualization. All of those things fall under force of will, where we're trying to actively influence the manifestation of things in our lives. The second form of magic, real magic, is divination. So this would be, he mentions tarot and mirror gazing. You could also put pendulums, literally channeling spirits under this, tapping into other energies, psychic phenomena. That's under divination. And then the third, which I hadn't heard this word before, but we actually just talked about this last week with deity work. The third is, I hope I'm saying this right, theurgy. And this is from the Greek word meaning God work. So, like theology, I believe, is like the study of religion, like that theo beginning. So theurgy. And it involves methods for evoking and communicating with spirits. So these are the three forms that he identifies as real magic, which I love breaking that down. So the word magic comes from another Greek word, magos or magos, referring to a member of a learned and priestly class, which in turn derives from the old Persian word magush, meaning to be able or to have power. So magic means to be able to have power. So when you're working magic, it means you are able to influence. You have the power to manifest or tap into, the divination techniques or connect with spirits or gods. So let's keep going. So our magic, which is a core facet of our religious practice, is of course fascinating and perfectly acceptable, but their practices are dangerous, outrageous, and evil. So he's talking about the connection that, like, when religion does magic, it's okay, but when someone outside of religion does magic, it's the occult, it's evil, it's bad. And the power itself, he says, is like any fundamental force of the universe. It's morally neutral, which we've talked about. Like, of course, when we're talking about influencing, our reality, influencing events, influencing things that are going to manifest, we're always mindful that it's for our highest good and the highest good of all. Like any tool out there, I can bop Juliet on the head with a hammer, or I can hang up a nail to hang my artwork on, right? Like one not so good, one fine. Mm-hmm. So with magic, it's like the way you use it, but this is a force. It's simply a force and it's morally neutral. And so let's see. I'm trying to do this gracefully because I highlighted a bunch of stuff. He mentions within the magical worldview, everything is deeply interconnected. So if you intend to harm others, you're likely to end up harming yourself. And this connects back to not a guilty conscience, but Newton's third law, that is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Little science there to start us off. So let's see. Okay. Let's see. It's talking here about philosophers analyze the concepts, logic, and assumptions used to describe consciousness. So this is really interesting. So basically what he's talking about is that science is this really amazing view we have of the world. It's sort of the greatest lens we have to describe and understand reality. But science, from the perspective or the, sort of the typical definition or of really how it's being utilized on a grand scale, it leaves out the fundamental piece of our reality, which is our consciousness. There's no factoring in the influence of our consciousness, and our consciousness is the one thing. There's anything in this world that we know for sure it exists. Like, I know I am me. I know that I am not Juliet. When I look at this screen and I see me and I see Juliet, my consciousness, I know who I am. I know which one I am. There's no question. But science doesn't draw in the concept of consciousness when it's working. It's working out its experiments. It's logical, rational way to describe the world. It doesn't account for that. So this man, Dean, has, and many others have tried to, as best as they can, and they are able to do this through thousands and thousands of experiments, use consciousness as like the number one thing they're focusing on, and how does consciousness influence our outside world, right? So cool. So let's see. Telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, and psychokinetic effects have all been independently repeated in laboratories around the world. Effects we see in the lab tend to be rather small because by design they must be demonstrated on demand and under strictly controlled conditions, but the magnitude of an effect is irrelevant if you're interested in whether the effects exist. So they have run thousands and thousands. And we actually talked about this in our mediumship masterclass this month with the Psychic Circle, that what's really incredible is when they study psychic phenomena, they don't hire psychics to do this. They don't seek out psychics. They don't call me and Juliet up and say, hey, we heard you're psychic. Can you come in for some research? I mean, we would be thrilled to do something like that probably. Mm-hmm. But psychic phenomena is studied by taking a large group of people and testing how psychic they are in various ways. It's not something where it's trained, developed, known psychics coming in and then it being studied. And what's interesting is what happens is that when they do have controlled studies where there's identified psychics, like me and Julia identify as psychics, when there's psychics, identified psychics and non-psychics in a controlled environment where they know they're being tested, a lot of times the non-psychics actually do better at being psychic than the psychics. And that's because being under that pressure and being on demand, they think the ego becomes bigger in the identified psychics because they're like, oh my gosh, I have to prove myself. And I, for one, know anytime ever anyone's like, prove it, my mind goes blank. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember somebody phrased it like this. I don't know if it was Megan or somebody else, but they were saying like spirit doesn't like doing party tricks. Like, that's not how it wants to like be helpful and be communicative. So that makes total sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to watch a small interview with Dr. Dean and Dan.
I think it's Dean, D-E-A-N.
Dean. Okay, Dr. Dean. And he was saying that only 0.1% or 0.01%, something small like that, of scientists are studying this type of thing. Mm-hmm. So 99.9% are not. But of those same scientists, 94% can attest that they've had some type of like magical or unexplainable thing happen in their lives. So he's like, it's not that this isn't happening. It's just that the funding is going somewhere else and the priority is going somewhere else. And I forever am obsessed with that quote about like, Christians call it prayer. Scientists call it the placebo effect. Witches call it spells. No one is denying that it exists. It just has a different name wherever you go. Because even if you think of the placebo effect, like that's pretty magical that we said this would help and then it does. Like your physical body will clear a rash, or you know what I mean? Like
it's the power of your mind, which is the magic.
Exactly.
It's so cool. So along with psychic phenomena, which might be slightly more studied than even like magic manifesting itself. Oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought.
Studying percentages.
Oh, right. Okay. So I still don't know, but I'm just going to start with something too.
Okay.
These things are being studied, and what was I gonna freaking say? Okay, well, let's just start here. Basically, they're able to recreate. So a good experiment needs to be replicable, and the results need to be able to be replicated to sort of prove it. And what is so interesting, I remember what I was going to say because of what you were talking about, is in this book, he talks about a number of people, a number of scientists who before him or at the same time as him are doing their own gigantic studies on these things. And from a statistical perspective, it's like billions to one, trillions to one that this is proven, like a trillion to one chance that it's just a coincidence, which basically means it's not a coincidence. Mm-hmm. However, when these articles, these researches are published, these people are completely ridiculed. They're not taken seriously. There's one woman that was a statistician, a statistics teacher, a statistician, that was working alongside researchers doing these studies. And she was doing a talk with a bunch of, scientists, researchers. That's who everyone was in the room. And she asked them, and she said, well, and these were mostly skeptics, even though she was presenting statistical information that proves that psychic phenomena and magic is very real, our power to influence our reality. And she said, well, what would make you believe is it the statistics or would it be if you yourself personally had a powerful experience? And this is a room full of scientists who live their lives based off of numbers and statistics and all of this research. And the vast majority of them said, there's no way a statistic will ever make me believe. I would have to have a personal experience. So it's really interesting because we cannot deny its existence. We cannot deny it. But it takes us having a personal experience to believe in it sometimes. And what I think is really amazing that I'm going to get to is that there's these, what they call sheep-goat studies. And I am going to get more detailed into that, but it's basically saying if you believe in psychic phenomena, then it's real. If you don't believe in it, then it's not. If you believe in magic and your power to manifest and influence your reality, then it's real. And if you don't believe in it, it's not. And it's as simple as that. And that's scientifically proven that our beliefs make it real or not. But from a universal perspective, it's impossible to deny from a statistical perspective that these influences don't exist, because they do. They simply do. So this is cool. So he talks a little bit about manifesting, and it's what we've always said. Have very clear goals, concentrate on them, and unquestionably believe that the goals will manifest, and they will. It's as simple as that, like when you lay it out, but it's not as simple to hold that energy, move through that energy, of course. But this is the very core of a magical practice. And so the essence of magic boils down to your ability to apply two very ordinary skills in your life, and it's attention and intention. So attention and intention, and the strength of the magical outcome is modulated by 4 factors, which is belief, imagination, emotion, and clarity, which we talk about all the time, right? That you need to believe that this is already your reality, that it's possible for you in order for you to manifest yourself into that timeline. You need to be clear about what it is you want. You need to get in the feeling, the emotion, right? And then I love that imagination is, from a scientific perspective, fucking powerful. It's one of the 4 factors that make magic real. So this is what Dean has studied and says is the most important aid to developing magical skills. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Some of you out there aren't going to like this because we all have a lot of resistance to this. the number one way to develop magical skills, whether that's being psychic, being a powerful manifester, meditation.
Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
No, I do love it sometimes.
It's the state of consciousness known as gnosis, Gnosis. And basically we need to be able to go into a state of consciousness, a deeply relaxed state where we are in a frequency where we're tapping into our subconscious mind, and that's where we're going to have the most influence. That's where we're going to receive the most information from our subconscious. We have our pineal gland, like we have a specific part of our body that we are born with that is like our magical center, our magic wand. It's literally like crystals in our brain, this pineal gland. And so meditation is what it is. He says the goal of meditation across many traditions is to achieve a state of awareness where one gains are you ready for this? After I had this meltdown on Sunday night watching Lucifer, meditation, the goal, achieve a state of awareness where one gains the realization that the personal self and the universal self are one, i.e., we're infinite light source beings. There's no difference between us and whatever you want to call source, God, the universe. Mm-hmm. We're all one. And we're all being our cute little selves, splitting up, being like, I'm going to be this human over there, and I'm going to be that kind of human over there. And isn't this thrilling and fun to have all these experiences? So within this state where we go into meditation, we come into the realization, the energy that there is no personal self, right? That we are this infinite being. We are one with source. The abilities naturally arise that allow the meditator to manipulate or to transcend the world. And these powers aren't anything special. They're just a natural part of us that we're meant to have. It's supposed to be, it's our natural instinct, but we live in a very technological, logical society that's really like grinded it out of us. But like, this is just another aspect of the natural world. There's nothing special about it.
I feel like I had too gross of a reaction to meditation. I like to lead meditations. I feel like that's the best. Like when I'm with people in community, like I could do that all day long. There's something about, and I think so many people feel this way, like sitting with myself alone, that is,
well, that's what you need to do.
Yeah, I know.
It's hard at first, but then you start. It's hard at first, but then now if I don't, it feels like I didn't have my coffee. Like it's like I'm bummed out if I didn't have time to meditate. It like I had so much resistance to it for literal a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, and now it's like I wake up and it's not even a question. There's no talking myself out of it. I'm like, booyah, I get to go into meditation and feel so good. And then I go on with my day. So it takes a while, everyone out there. My suggestions start with a 5-minute timer and then just add a minute or so every couple weeks and build yourself up. And I only do 13 minutes a day, but it's the best 13 minutes ever. It's such a good investment of your time. The bottom line, I underline this. The bottom line, he says, the bottom line, if you want to perform magic effectively, maintain a disciplined meditation practice.
Okay, fine, I will.
Learn to quiet your mind, see the world as it is, not as it appears to be when viewed through multiple layers of cultural conditioning. I love it. So he says, so a force of will. Let's go into force of will. So it says, for the majority of us, magic is expressed in subtle ways. Performing potent magic, like any refined skill, requires talent and disciplined practice. So one of those things, of course, being meditation. But there is, he says, there is a spark of the same source that manifests the entire universe. Think about that. If we are one with the universe, if you and I and everyone listening and the whole entire freaking world are actually one, and we're manifesting as these like little like I love the visualization of like the lotus flower, and like I'm like one little petal off of that dropped down to earth, and I'm having my experience, but we all come from that like same lotus flower, right? And so if we're one with source, if we're one with God, then we're also that. We're just a little drop of that. And so of course, if God or source or whatever like created this universe, then of course we have that power too, and we can manifest things in our life, in this little old life, in this little human life. Like, oh my gosh, that's easy. We don't have to create a whole new world. We can just create this our personal reality. Easy peasy, right? Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of his magic. So the two main things he talks about, which I thought affirmations, obvious. We know how powerful our words are. And then I thought it was interesting because he also talks about sigils. And this doctor right here has used sigils for himself to manifest. And we haven't talked about sigils much on the podcast, I don't think. We've done it a handful of times. If you've done Activate Your Magic, if you've done, I think maybe we did it in Quantum Goddess. We did it in Aligned AF last year. I think we've done it in the Coven, but we love that. So affirmations, here's his little run through. Force of will magic, again, involves the application of focused attention, intention, imagination, and belief. So with an affirmation, know what you want. The clearer the intended goal, the more likely it will manifest. Believe that the goal will be achieved. Imagine that it has already been achieved and in the future, and it's inexorably headed your way. Just like we talked about at that example of like when we order something from Amazon or on Postmates, like Mike just fell. How did that even happen? Magic. Magic's getting excited. Like we don't question if it's coming or not. It's like, yeah, obviously it's coming, that feeling. And he says, write the goal on a piece of paper to focus your intention. And while writing, I love this. Imagine that the surface of the paper represents universal consciousness or source or God or whatever you like to think about that as. And the ink that you're writing with represents your unconscious. So you're writing that into your life. And as you write your goal, imagine that you're casting your unconscious intentions onto the medium that creates and sustains reality itself. And then he says, review what you want, review it daily, like visualize it, imagine it, but don't dwell on it, like whether it's going to come or not. Just being like, can't wait, like so exciting. It's on its way, obviously. And then I thought this was interesting. And I think this depends. He says maintain secrecy. Don't share your goal with others. And I would like to edit that and say, share with people that will be excited about it with you, that will be, fuck yeah, obviously about it with you. And obviously don't share it with people that are going to be like, I don't know, do you really think that's possible? Be mindful of who you share your magical intentions with. And then he also does sigils. Now, I'm not going to do a whole sigil masterclass on this right now. I'm pretty sure we do this in the Coven. You can join the Coven and watch the replay. I think we do it at some point in there. But making a sigil is basically making a symbol and charging the symbol with the intention. So it's going to be similar to an affirmation where you're still doing all of those things: attention, intention, imagination, clarity, belief, all of that. And then whenever you get a glance of that sigil, that symbol, it's just sort of like this imprint into your subconscious, like that's your reality. That's your reality. So I thought that was cool. And does this really work? The key elements in both cases are focused intention and openness to the idea that the desired outcome has already been achieved, and very clear goals. So yes. And he describes a couple cool synchronicities that happened to him, and I'll briefly explain. But basically, he was looking for a new office to do research for these things. And then he I think it was in San Francisco, and he has this partner, whatever. They're looking at a number of offices. There's like 4 options. 1, 2, 3. They decide that's not it. The 4th option, they're like, this one is it. And he goes on to describe, so psi research, PSI, psi research, meaning psychic phenomena. It's a small community, like Juliet mentioned earlier. It's a small community. Pretty much every research lab knows about all the other research labs. They're in communication. They're working together because it's helpful to share their databases and stuff, right? And so he moves in and he notices that literally the door next door has their name starts with PSI, like psi something or other. And he's like, that's interesting. That must mean like, I can't remember what he said, like personnel search something must stand for something. It's not psi like us, like we would know about who they are. And then, so I don't know, a couple days go by or a couple weeks, and he decides, he just keeps getting drawn to this door. He's like, I got to know what's going on in there. So he decides to walk in. And he knocks and he opens the door, and the guy at the desk in the office, his face just is like shocked. He's just like mouth open, like goes white. and the author Dean is like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Like, the door was open. Like, is this a bad time?" And the guy's like, No. And then he goes on to say that they were doing an experiment to manifest specifically Dean.
No.
To get a spot in their building so that they could work together.
No.
And Dean walks into the office, and this man's like, they don't reach out to him. They don't contact him. Dean has no idea. And then the even crazier part was that Dean was doing his own little experiment with manifestation, that he wanted to find the grant money or the funding to get these certain machines or something that were very expensive. Well, he just so happened to get the office next door to another psi research facility that has those very machines, and manifested him because they want to work with him. So they manifested each other. Like, he manifested being able to work with this certain type of technology. They literally manifested no communication between the two. Isn't that crazy? Ugh,
yes.
Wild.
Oh, I love
using
that.
those techniques. So cool.
I love that story. That's such a good party story. Like, you
right?
know, Dean's like walking into the parties like, you will not believe this story. Everybody gathers around.
Oh my God. I mean,
Dean's the hit of the night.
Dean. So it's really cool. He describes like remote viewing training. I thought this was really cool. I underlined this because he talks about when it comes to remote viewing training, which when he's talking about remote viewing, it's basically what we are really developing and practicing in the psychic circle is tapping into an energy outside of yourself and being able to receive messages, see information, use all of your clairs. So when it's remote viewing, he's not just talking about clairvoyance, seeing, he's talking about all the clairs. And he says that, so meditation is important for this, but he says the biggest challenge to remote viewing, and we talk about this all the time, learning to not name the target is the primary challenge one faces in remote viewing training. We talk about this all the time. You see something and you immediately want to explain it and decide what it means. And most of the time as psychics, our job is not to explain so much as just to describe exactly what we're experiencing. And we don't have to understand it. It makes sense to the person receiving the information. So it's just cool and so validating to see stuff where you're like, oh my God, I talk about that, you know, in one of our spaces. We teach about that. We do that. And it's like, you know, this PhD guy, this doctor of magic is describing that. So he talks about in today's fast-paced world, we want instant results, and things can happen fast with magic, but magic is very real, but it's not always fast and it's not always easy. And it takes attention, intention, consistency too. So let's talk about some scientific evidence. Ooh. Okay. There's also a lot of the origin of magic and history if anyone really likes that and wants to get the book. That part was kind of boring to me personally. Maybe another episode. If you guys want it, let us know. Okay.
Let us know.
So let's talk about force of will. Force of will has been studied in the context of investigating mind-matter interactions, also called psychokinesis. I think on a dramatic blown up scale, this is like Matilda. Do you remember watching Matilda and her moving stuff with her mind?
I remember going to the movie theater and getting scared and crying and leaving early.
Oh my God. I feel like we were always watching it at my grandma Olson's house for some reason. And it scared the shit out of me when she locks her in that thing.
Yeah, that's I think when I freaked out and we were on like a play date. My mom said, "We're leaving."
And then when the one kid has to eat all the chocolate cake, I think that might have been one of the first moments I experienced anxiety.
Yeah, it was not a children's film.
What is this feeling? Okay. Force of will. But that made me think like psychokinesis, like being able to move things with your mind. It's not so literal like that all of the time, but we're influencing. And then divination has been studied as variations of clairvoyance or precognition. And theurgy has been investigated in labs, typically in the form of mediumship studies. So theurgy, again, is connecting with spirits, connecting with angels, those kinds of things. So let's see. The data in support of precognition and possibly other related phenomena are quite strong statistically and would be widely accepted if it pertained to something more mundane. So this is the frustration of the psi community because statistically, if they were to put these numbers out for any other area, if they were like, we're studying the evolution of this beetle, and these are the statistic numbers that prove this, people would be like, oh, good job. Yeah, of course. But when it comes to some magic phenomena, they're like, I don't know. But most scientists reject the possible reality of these abilities without even looking at the data, which is sad. It's sad because, like Juliet said, there's less funding, there's less, there's less time, there's less people giving. And imagine if this was widely accepted. It gives us it's so empowering because it's not a special gift that some people have. We all have these abilities. And so if we could get to a place where these were widely accepted, our overall sense of, I don't know, I just think fulfillment and well-being would be so beautiful. And we would be, I don't know, manifesting such amazing things in our world if more of us, understood our power. So, it's funny because there's two extremes and there's not a lot of people in the middle. I think Juliet and I are kind of grounded in the middle a little bit. There's two extremes. It's like the scientists that no matter what data you give them, they're like, no, it's not real. And then the other extreme is just the believers that are like, I don't need to see the data. I know it's real. And I have that sense of optimism in me, but there's a reason I like studying this stuff so much. I do like to understand how it's real and why it's real. But it's just interesting because it's also, it's often named a pseudoscience, but it's being studied very in depth and very legitimately, and the numbers prove it's right. And to just base conclusions on belief rather than data, that's the pseudoscience. These scientists that are like, no, I don't believe it, so it's not real. That's the pseudoscience. That's the fake science right there. So that's interesting. Okay, so he describes something called 6 Sigma. So the experiments, this is a class of experience that has been repeated a certain number of times, and it's basically 6 Sigma is 5 stars, good job. This is a legitimate study. It passes certain levels of legitimacy, of being mindful of like the double blind and bias and being able to be repeated, all of those things. So all of the experiments I'm going to chat about pass this like 6 sigma test. We're going to call the 5 stars, the 6 stars test. Okay, so, but for all practical purposes settled, Magick exists. What we call Magick, we don't know what else to call it. It exists. And again, there's different names. You can name it prayer. You can name it the placebo effect, but it's statistically proven. There's no doubt. So, before we get to the experiments, before I even went back and put in all my little notes, I had dog-eared this page because the role of resonance is the key factor that makes magic work. Magic in any sense, force of will, psychic phenomena, etc. So resonance is feeling at one. Resonance. Write that down. Take note of it, everyone out there. Feeling at one. You need to resonate with what it is you desire, the identity that you want to hold. If you want to be psychic, you have to be in resonance with that. If you want to manifest your dream car or manifest your dream business goals, you have to resonate with that. You have to be at one with that. Mm-hmm. This means you must absolutely want the desired outcome more than anything you've ever desired. A passionate, obsessive, overwhelming desire, but at exactly the same time, you must also maintain zero anxiety about it. This contradictory state is by no means easy to achieve, but it does bear similarity to states that can be achieved in meditation. So this is where meditation also comes in, is being able to be obsessed, so excited, desire the things so much. There's no other option than to have it, but have no anxiety, no fear surrounding that. So meditation, visualization, focused concentration. Of the different intentional strategies used in these studies, the most successful in terms of their actual performance, I thought this was so interesting because, again, last week we talked about deity work, and this is mentioned in here. Okay, so most successful to least successful. I'm going to go down to the list. Number 1, most successful, resonance, what I just described. The second most successful way to manifest is asking entities, spirits or angels, gods or goddesses, deities, for assistance. Using emotion to help power the will, that's next. One-pointed concentration, physical relaxation, visual imagery, and then finally, talking to the RNG. That's the thing that they study with. So talking to the thing you want as though it were a sentient creature. So these are all things they've studied different ways. I thought that what was interesting was visualization was actually pretty far down the list. Just visualizing on its own, studied, is powerful. But what really matters is resonance and the feeling more than just sitting there and imagining. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because that's resonance. A frequency. That's matching a frequency.
Okay. So resonance. So people that participated in the studies that had really high success rates in influencing outcomes described that it was a state of immersion in the process, which led to a loss of awareness of myself and the immediate surroundings. That's how they were the most successful. Similar to the experience of being absorbed in a game, book, theatrical performance, or some creative occupation, I didn't feel any direct control over the device, more like a marginal influence when I'm in resonance with the machine. They were trying to influence outcomes on a machine, like on a screen.
Okay.
It's like being in a canoe. When it goes where I want, I flow with it. When it doesn't, I try to break the flow and give it a chance to get back in resonance with me. So think about those feelings like where you sort of just get lost in the experience. For me, I really related to like the book, the theatrical performance. I can remember when I would be dancing on stage, like especially during a performance itself, not just like in dance class, just like almost like blacking out.
Yes.
And you're like, it's over. Like, I don't even remember if I must have done it all right. Like everyone's clapping and cheering, you know, that's the feeling you want to get in. That's being in resonance, being in one. There's no me and this thing. We are one. So that is powerful. Being in a state of mind where the distinction between oneself and the RNG dissolves. So the RNG again being the reference point of what they were trying to influence, but we can replace that with whatever it is we're manifesting. The results are consistent with the hypothesis that states of absorption associated with changes in perception of time and experience of trance-like awareness are associated with replicable alterations. So they're able to show again and again and again, getting into these deep states of consciousness and resonance over and over and over again. To a statistical degree, they can prove that this has influence on physical reality. Resonance, absorption, and effortless striving are all associated with improved performance in intentional tasks. These experiences are in alignment with a key goal in magical practice, especially for spell casting and other intentional acts of working from a state of consciousness that sees through the illusion of separateness. So this is important. I love that he brought up spell casting, because when you are spell casting, when you are working your spells, it's deeply important that you're bringing a meditative kind of awareness into that practice. It's one thing to put the items in the spell jar or sprinkle some things on candles and light it and go on with your day. It's a whole other experience when you go into a meditative state, and like with each motion you are deeply aware of its purpose and why you are doing what you are doing, and you try to get into that almost like trance like state of like working that spell, and then when you come out of it you have that feeling of like, oh, like what happened? You're so deeply at one with the intention of the goal of that spell. So it's been studied. Spell work works. Okay, so let's talk about this is going to be a long episode. I'll wrap up soon.
I'm enjoying it.
Okay, so we have the blessed chocolate experiment.
Ooh, I got a peek of this one and I love this. Okay, tell me.
Okay, so think about this. Think about the ritual of the Eucharist, which is a Catholic ritual. It goes through an act called transubstantiation. This really brought me back to Catholic school, this word. And that it's not just a symbolic act. Catholics believe that it's a genuine miracle, an act of pure magic, that little, what's it called? Oh my gosh, I'm such a bad ex-Catholic. The little communion thing in the wine, actually, they're like, no, it's a miracle. It's actually the body and blood of Christ. It's transubstantiation. It actually changes. It's a miracle. Which I'm like, and you guys aren't witches. Okay. Okay. Like, no wonder I turned into a witch. I grew up drinking the body and blood of Christ. So this is sort of what we are trying to replicate a little bit in this experiment with the blessed chocolate. So blessing food is a magical expression of force of will. And this is really powerful. And it's made me try to create the new habit of like, oh, I should bless my food. Like, I don't have to say the Catholic prayer over my food every day, but it does make a difference to bless our food before we eat it. The intention that the food about to be consumed is safe and nourishing can actually have a proper influence. So basically what they did for this experiment, and I actually didn't underline, but I remember how to describe it. Basically what they did is they got a big old group of people. They had everyone rate their level of belief in something like a blessed chocolate making a difference in their life. And then they blessed half the chocolate. They left half the chocolate unblessed. It was blessed by, I think, I'm not going to search through the pages and try and find it, but I believe it was Tibetan monks. Blessed the chocolate with the intention to like elevate the mood and make the people like happier and healthier, whatever. So they basically were able to prove with this experiment, and they ran this a number of times, that some interesting things happened. So there's basically 4 different groups here. There's believers with blessed chocolate. There's believers without blessed chocolate. There's non-believers with blessed chocolate and non-believers without blessed chocolate. And the people that noted down the biggest positive influence from this chocolate were the believers with blessed chocolate, which is to be expected, right? What was interesting was there actually wasn't that much of a placebo effect when it came to believers that thought they had blessed chocolate, but they didn't. They reported a slight elevation, but it was nowhere close to the actual blessed chocolate. And the non-believers who did have blessed chocolate reported the same amount of positive increase as the believers without blessed chocolate, if that makes sense. So they both increased, slightly improved, like mood, whatever. The believers with it had a lot, and then the non-believers without didn't feel any different. So that's interesting because it does show that our belief in something does have a huge influence and is what makes magic real. But it also shows that you can have a slight improvement within a non-believer who does have a blessed chocolate, which is really interesting. Consistently, it showed over and over again. So there is something happening when something is blessed, and our belief in it magnifies that to an exponential degree. But even if we don't believe, there is a small amount of influence that happens when something is blessed, which is pretty incredible, I thought. They also repeated this with tea, with having the same sort of setup and giving people blessed tea and unblessed tea. So I thought that was pretty incredible.
It is.
And let's see. So they did it with tea too. And this is what I wanted to describe. So they do these sheep goat experiments. And the sheep is the person, it describes the person that is a believer, and a goat describes a person who is not a believer. So the sheep goat experiments, there's a number of different ones that relate to psychic phenomena and like force of will, magic, manifesting magic. Mm-hmm. And again and again and again to a statistical, again, these statistics are like 8 billion to 1, 100 trillion to 1, like crazy. Like you can't deny this, that our belief is what makes magic real. He says the bottom line, sheep get magic, goats do not. I think he wrote in one part, I thought I laughed so hard because he said, if you're a goat, no magic for you. Let's see. I think we can kind of tie up there. Was there anything all? So basically, that's the gist of it. If you want more specifics about the way they set these up, the double-blind studies, the avoiding the bias, it's all laid out in crazy detail here. If you're like, I don't know, Sadie might just be skimming. I am verbally. But it's pretty incredible. And there are also experiments showing that we are able to see the future. They did experiments about whether the future is, when we're seeing the future, is it a probable precognition, or is it an actual set in stone precognition, which basically is it like, do we have free will, or is our destiny set in stone? And they were able to prove to a highly statistical degree that when we experience precognition, it's probable, not set in stone actual, which we also teach that as well. Basically, you're tapping into energy that we're reading on, like what's most likely to, it's like the math, but we're not doing the math in our heads, but we're given the information that shows this is the most likely outcome if you continue down this path, which is pretty cool. There's so much more in this book. It's absolutely incredible. I would definitely recommend it if you like learning about this kind of stuff. I still have half to go, so I'll let you guys know if there's anything else major we got to go over in this. But I was pretty amazed. And the biggest thing I took away from it is that for anyone that wants to approach you and say, you're so ridiculous that you believe in magic, you're so ridiculous that you think you're psychic or that psychics exist, I want you to say, that's interesting. No magic for you. Because from a literal scientific perspective, if you believe in it, it's real. And if you don't, it's not. In all forms of magic, divination, psychic phenomena, theurgy, force of will, manifestation, all of it. It's to the degree that you believe it's possible, which is pretty incredible because that's where we can start. If we have a hard time believing it, that's fine. Then start there, work on believing it, finding little proofs of magic all around you. We can certainly attest to an incredible amount of experiences where we're like, that doesn't even make sense that happened. Whoa, was magic real? The more you believe, the more magical your life becomes, which is pretty cool.
I loved everything you had to share. And I also liked the energy and the way in which he presented information, because I think it kind of lines up with what we're really passionate about here, which is there's a world of magic out there. If you want it, here are some ways to tap into it. And if you don't have to. I think that you were saying that there's like such extreme ends of spectrums. And I've been doing so much reflecting lately on, this extreme of like, well, you're manifesting every single thing all the time, and how I think that can cause a lot of OCD and anxiety and sort of defeat the purpose of like stepping into these magical ways of being and these practices. And I also just don't think it explains so many things that just happen in the world. I just have a hard time believing that, somebody manifested war in their country. You know what I mean? Just circumstances. So I just feel really lit up by this episode, because it's like, it's almost like manifestation is a method and it's a pathway, and magic is a method and a pathway, and you can choose to hop on that train. And it's not about like looking back at every negative thing that ever happened in your life and, in my opinion, wasting time and energy,
right? Like
thinking,
blaming yourself. Yeah.
I can't get on that train. There's a person on Instagram that I follow that I really, really like. And she recently got, shingles, and she had a post about like, I 100% believe we manifest everything. I know that I manifested this. And I was so tempted to message her and be like, no, you didn't. You just got it. And I'm sorry. And it's a bummer. And like, let's turn it into gold and let's make the best of it. And find and so I've just been trying to really go within and find that balance. And this just felt really inspiring and empowering. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I do believe in magic, and I've seen it happen over and over again, not only in my life and in your life, but in the lives of the amazing people who come into our world and, want to play with it. And I argue, a little bit more freeing of a way. I think we have a kind of I was joking with Irene. I was like, there's like Orthodox Judaism and then there's Reform Judaism. And I'm definitely like a Reform Judaism woman. And I'm like, I think we do like Reform magic. I think we do like Reform manifestation because it's all rooted in feeling good and empowered. Like that's the whole point.
Yeah. Well, I think, what stood out to me is that he actually never uses the word manifestation in this book because, I think I have an explanation for that, because from a scientific perspective, manifestation at its baseline means something being brought into physical reality. So is it accurate to say that our entire reality is a manifestation? Yes. But it doesn't mean that we personally manifested everything. You know what I mean? It's like, and when we're talking about like, oh, you can manifest this, you can manifest your dream life, that means intentional manifestation, right? Like sometimes, and not always, I'm not saying this happened with this person who got shingles, but like, I think like I've gotten sick recently because like I needed to rest. So I manifested something not that serious, a little bit of a head cold and a sore throat because the universe was like, Sadie, you need to chill out, right? So sometimes we manifest things. So it's important to be able to like distinguish. And that's part of the spiritual journey, is being able to distinguish like what's mine, what's my responsibility, what's the empowering perspective. But, he always says force of will. And like, that's really the accurate describer, is like how I'm using my force of will to build what I want in my life. Because a manifestation is just like, it wasn't here, now it's here. That's that,
Right.
And it's I think there's such a, right. There's such a like, no, you manifested every single thing. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I didn't buy the stuff in this closet over here. Like my dad manifested that, like that had nothing to do with me. I manifested coming back home and being in this environment. Right. So it's just interesting and being able to distinguish, and it's just the most fun, interesting, empowering journey. And I love talking about it. I just love it.
I do too. And to do it from like, something that Dr. Dean said was the best. I saw him say this. He was so cute, by the way.
I don't even know what he looks like. I have to look him up.
Oh, you will he is precious. He was saying the best magicians are delusional with their head in the clouds, but they're also extremely grounded. Like I
feel like that's, maybe I'm not grounded all the time, but I feel like that's kind of us. Definitely delusional.
No, I think we're a good balance.
We're pretty grounded.
Balance. But I just thought, you get to be both. You get to be both.
Absolutely.
Aw, Dr. Dean.
Dr. Dean. Well, shout out Dr. Dean.
We might be able to reach out to him because
we should, honestly,
all the time. Yeah.
Dr. Dean on the show. We can sing him a song about real magic.
Real magic.
He's going to be like, never mind.
I feel like he'll call us charming. He's like, you girls are charming.
Dr. Dean, tell us about spell casting.
Sigil workshop with Dr.
He's like,
Dean.
it's actually Dr. Radin. Please don't call me by my first name. Oh, Dean.
Dean. Big D.
Dean. Big Daddy Dean.
Tap Daddy Brad and Big Daddy Dean. Call back.
I can't wait for us to ask him to be on our podcast. And then he's going to be like, oh, wow, they did an episode inspired by my book. And he's going to listen to it. And then he's going to be like, absolutely not. Or absolutely yes. Who knows?
We'll send an email.
Dude, clip this out. Can we invite Big Daddy Dean on the podcast?
Dr. Dean.
Dr.
Twirl our hair.
What's spell casting? Can you talk more about that?
Tell us about magic. We think you're kind of magical. He told this really cute story where he was doing a speech, talk somewhere, and he was like, yeah, like I could just say I want to manifest a gold-plated Mercedes in my driveway, and it's probably just not going to show up instantly. But if I have the faith, yada yada. And he said a witch was in the audience, and she sent him and he held it up, this little tiny figurine of a gold-plated Mercedes, and the letter said, "You need to be more specific." He's like, and I learned a big lesson that day.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Be specific.
Like had it.
Be specific. Yeah. Another song for us. Be specific. Be specific.
Real magic. Be specific.
Be specific. Okay. On that note, everyone, make sure you're following us on social media. Our handles are the same on everything: TikTok, Instagram. We also go live every week to do free readings, so catch us on there. At Goddess Hangs, I am Sadie Olson.
I'm at Juliet.Piper.
And we have our 5-day manifesting challenge. It's free. It's called Alchemize Your Life. It's in the show notes. I'll link that book in the show notes. We also have our free Witchcraft for Beginners guide, our free Psychic Claire Strength Finder quiz. There's so much yummy stuff in the show notes, so go check it out. And if you want to go to Bali with us, if you're ready to take a big old leap into travel and adventure this year with us, and you have any questions, one, you can totally DM us at Goddess Hangs. We'd love to chat with you about it. And all the info is also in the show notes. And we would be so excited to see you there. We're doing all sorts of fun stuff. The whole itinerary is there. Let's talk about it. Reach out to us if you're interested. We're just so grateful that we get to make this podcast every week, and that our jobs are to talk about mindset and magic and manifestation and intuition. And we'd love to see you in our coven or our psychic circle, or if you want it all, the Alchemy Collective. And we love you. We love you. We love you. Bye.
We love you so much. Goodbye.